Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today got a build for you. A lot of you have been asking for a build that revolves around a set that's in last Epoch. Most set items or sets together aren't super endgame viable. There are a couple of them, and so we did one of them today, which is Halvar's set. This one is a 3-piece set. It revolves around a two-handed staff. It revolves around using a relic and a pair of boots. So if you have all three of those, this is a build you can definitely give a try. All three of those are pretty common. If you've been playing for a while, you've probably found all of those as drops. Now, the set revolves around giving you a lot of adaptive spell damage, spell physical damage, spell cold damage, some mana efficiency, and its main niche thing is that it's going to give you a 100% chance on a critical strike, any critical strike that you do, for a Avalanche Boulder to proc and come down and hit a nearby enemy. On top of that, that boulder will use your Avalanche tree, so we're really building around that, and that Avalanche that's procced because you did a critical strike will also have a chance to critically strike, which then inside the Avalanche tree will be able to proc another boulder, but that one will not be allowed to critically strike. So you can get 3 boulders on a single critical strike is what can happen here, which is really cool. Now, there are no other uniques required. If you really wanted, you could wear Wings of Argentus and keep yourself moving. Over in the gameplay, you'll notice that I'm showing off its tankiness. This is empowered gameplay. You have the ability to just kind of face tank whatever you want. You will take damage, but you have a lot of leech, so you really replenish it quite quickly. You got a lot of damage reduction, especially if you've taken a melee hit and you have aspect of the boar that procs. But this build is mostly going to be revolved around auto-casting Avalanche, having Icelands on auto-cast. You're going to be pretty tanky, but you're going to be a fast-moving build with everything kind of being hit right behind you. The Ice Thorns will go outwards, the Avalanche will follow you where you go, and you're going to kill things rather quickly, but you're not going to do a ton of damage. It's why it's not the best version of Avalanche, because wearing the two-handed staff, it also kind of hurts you in a way where getting critical strike, 100% critical strike chance can be rather difficult. In this build, we don't have it, even while using the Frenzy Totem for 250% increase, and using the Warcry for 200% increase. Because we can't use a Catalyst, you know, we're still limited by how much critical strike we can get, and we get up to a max of about 64% spell critical strike chance in this build. Although not fully built into it and there's no exalted items, you could reach 100% if you went fully for it. We mostly stacked a lot of attunement in this build so that we'll have a lot of mana, and it also gives a lot of freeze potential to Avalanche. But let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and really just how it all works. For skills, I'm running Warcry, Summon Frenzy Totem, Ice Thorns, Avalanche, and Summon Thorn Totem. For Warcry, we have this set up to give us 100% increased cold damage, crit chance, and another 100% crit chance in a separate node. So we'll get 200% crit chance, we'll get 100% cold damage, and we'll gain haste from it, and we'll be able to do this every 5 seconds with the buffs lasting for 4 seconds. So we've got 2 points in Deep War, which is going to give us an increased area with it, 4 points in Battle Cry, so we'll get a 100% increased crit chance for 4 seconds, 1 point to convert it into a purely cold skill, 5 points in Frost Claw for 250% increased cold damage, which is a huge buff, 1 point in Bringer of Winter, and this gives us another 100% crit chance and will also give us a 100% chill chance on hit. We got 1 point in Juggernaut, so we're invulnerable for 1 second after using Warcry, 1 point in Staggering War to knock back enemies around us, 1 point in Kinetic Scream, 2 points in Shredding Howl, 1 point in Shallow Breath, which reduces the cooldown by 50%, and 1 point in Hastily Advance so that we get haste on hit. For Summon Frenzy Totem, we have this set up to give us the Tether effect, which will give us 250% increased critical strike chance while we are tethered to it. So we have maximum area, we got some added duration, and we really want that crit chance because it's really going to boost how many crits we're doing, which really matters because that will determine how many extra boulders come down. We also are trying to take advantage of a second mechanic that is available inside Frenzy, but we'll get to that in a second. So we got 4 points in Grounded, 1 point in Dig In, 5 points in Dig Deep. This gives us that 250% critical strike chance, 4 points in Teutonic Reach. This increases the area that you can be tethered by 120%, which is huge. 2 points in Reinforced Totem gives it additional duration and health, so you can try and get 100% uptime on it. 1 point in Thorn Idol, and then this one is the new mechanic that we're trying to take advantage of. Did some testing, don't think it works how I want it to, but you'll be able to test it as well. We've got 3 points in Lash Out, and this makes when the Frenzy Totem gets hit, there's a 15% chance that it will proc Ice Thorns. However, I don't believe that it's casting your Ice Thorns. I think it's just the generic Ice Thorns going out. The reason that I wanted it to be our Ice Thorns when it goes out is because if they crit and it's counting as our Ice Thorns and it does a critical strike chance, that's another boulder that will come down for something hitting your Frenzy Totem. However, in the little bit of testing I could do, which is hard because you're out in the fight trying to get your Frenzy Totem hit, it didn't really look like it was proccing our Ice Thorns. It looked like it was just a sampling Ice Thorns or its own version of Ice Thorns. But you can definitely test it more. If that turns out not to be working the way that I'm hoping it's working, feel free to take those points out, put them somewhere else. Nothing else is really going to be a huge deal for it. For Ice Thorns, we have this setup since we are wearing a two-handed weapon. It's going to be free. We're also going to do the Far Heart buffs so that we get additional cold damage. And then, of course, we have it on Instacast so that it can be cast without stopping us, and it'll be on a 1-second cooldown. So we've got 1 point in Emblem of Might to make it free, the 2 points in Cold Prison, 4 points in Far Wood Heart. This gives us a stack of up to 4 stacks, which we'll have all 4 stacks at almost 100% uptime, which will give us 100% increased cold damage and a lot more freeze rate multiplier. We then have 1 point in Anim Affiliate, 1 point in Thorn Shield, 1 point in Second Nature to turn it into an Instacast, 6 points in Flora Tithe, so we'll get some critical strike avoidance as well as reduce that cooldown so it'll cast every second, and then the last 4 points in Dagger Thorns to give it that critical strike base chance so that we can try and get more critical strikes with it so we can proc more of the Avalanche Boulders. For Avalanche, we have this set up to turn it into a just cold skill. It won't do physical damage. It'll have a 100% chance when it does a critical strike hit with a boulder to proc another one, but that procced one will not be able to critically strike. And then we have it set up to follow us. So we got 1 point in Mountain Peak, 1 point in Precision, 1 point in Wild Path, so it's no longer channeled. 4 points in Unyielding Storm, so it lasts longer, 1 point in Hailstorm, so it follows us as we move, and 1 point in Naturally Occurring to give us some mana efficiency with it. If you're having mana issues and don't have enough mana regen, definitely put some more points in here and take out of the Stormfront and take out of the Intensity as much as you can to put in there. We also have that 3 points in Intensity, so they fall faster to unlock the Storm Front, so that we can put the 1 point in there so we have more boulders falling quicker. 3 points again in Alpine Guide so that we can summon an additional boulder on crit. 2 points in Explosive Impact, 1 point in Mountain's Fury, and 1 point in Frost to convert it straight into just cold and not have multiple tags. Now you can't get plus levels to this because that comes on the relic, and for the 3-piece set for Halvar's, you have to use the set piece in the relic slot. That's one of the reasons that leads to it not being as good as the manually crafted. If you have plus 2, plus 3, plus 4 levels to Avalanche, there's a lot more damage that you can get out of this. For Summon Thorn Totem, we just have this set up because we have one idol that procs them on hit or has a chance to, so we want as many of them to be summoned as possible when that does proc. The reason for this, the totems will give us resistances, physical and elemental, through our passive tree. It's also going to do hits, and those hits can apply Armor Shred, which will allow us to do more damage. So we've got 4 points in Forested Expanse, 4 points in Eternal Forest, 1 point in Grove Mind, 1 point in Ancient Power, 2 points in Impale, 5 points in Shred Armor, so they have a 100% chance to shred armor on hit, and 3 points in Winged Thorn, so they can go further with their thorns that have been fired. For passives, I've got 20 points in the base Primalist class, with 8 points in Natural Attunement, 5 points in Hunter's Restoration, 1 point in Primal Medicine, and 6 points in Wisdom of the Wild. We then have 20 points in the Beastmaster to get some damage reduction, as well as unlock the Summon Frenzy Totem. So we have 8 points in Ursane Strength, 5 points in Boarheart, 2 points in Call of the Pack, and 5 points in Porcine Constitution. So when we do get hit by a melee attack, we'll have 5 seconds of Boarheart, which gives us 30% damage reduction, which is really nice. We got 8 points in the Druid, all 8 points in Soul's Attendant for that attunement. Remember, we're trying to stack as much attunement as possible. And then 65 points in the Shaman, our mastered class, with 8 points in Shamanic Infusion, 5 points in Tempest Form, 8 points in Silent Protector, 8 points in Earthen Supremacy, 2 points in Windbringer, 5 points in Shattered Heavens, 5 points in Protective Circle, 8 points in Ruin of Awe, 8 points in Elemental Shrines, and 8 points in Ascendant Circle. For items, idols, blessings, uniques, all of that, for idols, you want at least one idol that has a chance to summon a Thorn Totem on any hit that you do. That's going to be a 1x4 idol. It only comes on the 1x4 idols, so that will reduce how your whole idol situation works. You can also get damage leech as health on hit, which will increase your survivability. You want as much leech as possible. And you can also get increased cold damage per active totem. With a frenzy totem and 5 thorn totems, that can be quite a bit of extra cold damage for the build. On a 1x3, you can also get increased spell damage. As for the 1x1s and 1x2s, you can get some leech or fix a resistance that you haven't been able to cap. I didn't put them here because those are pretty open to anything that you want. For uniques, there are 3 of them, as this is a set build. We have the Halvar's Pledge, which is a 2-handed staff. The base of that is the Woodland Staff. This comes with spell physical damage, base critical strike chance, up to 10 points of attunement, added mana, and can even give some mana efficiency. It also comes with the Boots, which will give you freeze rate multiplier, more mana efficiency, increased physical damage if you've cast a cold spell, and it gives you a % chance to gain haste when you kill an enemy with a spell. Kind of useless for how small of a chance it is. You can already get haste from both Frenzy Totem, and you can get it from using Warcry. The 3% chance on kill is extremely low, but occasionally it will give it to you. And then, of course, the third piece is the Relic, the last gift of the mountain, which will give you up to 100% chance to shred armor on spell it, and 100% chance to apply frostbite on spell it. So you're digging into a little bit of dot damage as well. This will also give you up to 60% increased cold spell damage if you've directly cast a physical spell, which Ice Thorns will count as. And then on top of that, this also comes with some base all resist and some more attunement. For the rest of the items, nothing really special. We pretty much ran attunement on everything and then just health. If you can get some leech in there and other things, that'll definitely help you. Again, you can't wear a catalyst or a shield on this build because it's a 2-handed staff. So if you're not really, if you don't build too much into critical strike chance and you're not really proccing the extra boulders, I almost recommend, if you still want to use the 2-piece set for that plus 10 spell cold damage, to get rid of the 2-handed staff, put a 1-handed scepter or a 1-handed wand on, which you can get the same amount of adaptive spell damage, and then you can run a catalyst with more base crit chance on it, and it will give you and open up those affixes, so you can have 2 more prefix for either spell critical strike chance and crit multi, and it will also give you the option to have 2 suffixes to improve your defense and get more resistance on them. Then nothing special about the blessings. Again, just going to go completely over these for you so you can see them in the build planner, which will be linked in the description below if you'd like to check it out for yourself. One of the big things is the chance to shred cold resistance on hit. Really helps do more damage the more hits you've done on an enemy. Helps against rares and bosses a lot. Alright, for the character sheet, as you can see, we're just over 2300 health. Our resistances will be capped. Remember, we get all of our elemental and physical when we proc the Thorn totems. I can show you what that looks like here. If I just use it manually, we'll throw them out. Boom, you'll be capped there. And then the last thing that you'll have is, you do need a little bit more void, but you'll be fine just without it. And again, when you have the Frenzy Totem active as well, you're definitely going to be above that amount that you need to have all of it capped. And for our defenses, we do have a little bit of armor for some additional damage reduction. We're not building into dodge. And then for damage types, we have just over 220% critical strike avoidance. We have 130% spell damage, and we have 58% increased cold damage. All of those, again, will be boosted when we do the Thorn totems. Per totem here, you can see we get a big boost. We also get increased damage from being tethered to the Frenzy Totem. On top of that, if we use Warcry, another big boost in damage. You can see we're already up to over 450% cold damage when those are active, and that's not even with the 5 totems for more increased cold damage per active totem. So you can get a really big boost. You can get to about 700-800% increased cold damage, which is really going to make you start hitting quite a bit harder. Alright, for the skill rotation and how I use this, I put Avalanche on autocast, the Summon Frenzy Totem on autocast, and Ice Thorns on autocast, and just all of them on autocast. All we care about is lunging around to dodge a big hit, and using Warcry to boost our critical strike chance. And then for how much damage we're going to do here, you'll notice once we start getting hits, you start proccing the Thorn totems. You're going to be proccing a lot of them. And then once we use Warcry and we have our Frenzy Totem here, you can see we get in 15 to 20k crits. It's not super high, but there is a massive amount of boulders coming down here. A lot of them. We not only have the ones that we normally get from Avalanche, but for every one of those crits, there is an extra boulder coming down, which is really, not doubling your damage because it's not doing crits in all of them, but it's a big boost to that damage. And that's really it. You're just going to run around and have it follow you, and use Warcry every now and then just to boost that critical strike chance. and it's more of a speed running build, but it's good against bosses, it's good against running echoes quick, and it does all right in the arena. It's also a build that should survive for patch 8.3, and if anything, get a little bit more powerful if we put on 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐻𝐢𝐦𝐻𝐬 gloves to get another additional 25% damage reduction on this build. You can also wear the Wings of Argentis if you have it for another 40% damage reduction. You just want to make sure that you're constantly moving if you do use that. Between those two, you can become very, very tanky. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that you guys have been asking for a build based around a set for a long time. Not everyone uses it, not everyone has the pieces, but just figured that we'd get this out there because a lot of people have been asking. Alright, as always, stay safe, travelers, and enjoy some gameplay.